Hello YouTube, welcome to the Educated Barbarian, episode 16, focused on the meditations. We are 3/4 of the book through, not necessarily in terms of volume, because we still have a large chunk of paragraphs to read together, but there are a lot of them that I'm going to skip because they're just going to reiterate ideas that Marcus Aurelius has already said, and I don't want this series to become too repetitive because I want to be able to move on to Epictetus as soon as possible. So let us begin today. Adapt yourself to the things which your destiny has given you. Love those with whom it is your lot to live, and love them with sincere affection. So twofold here. First off, the idea that you are placed in a universe with people that are not necessarily chosen for you, but that it is your duty to actually try and work with. It's not going to work for everyone, but you should at least give it a try. And when you have given it a sincere try, it is when you can actually stop associating with certain people because it just doesn't work. And in reality, to me, that's what's going to constitute your second family. Because you're given a real family at birth, but then through life, you get to pick your second family. And you might find that in certain aspects of your existence, you're going to be closer to these people because your free will allowed you to pick them. You didn't pick your parents, you didn't pick your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, but these people, those friends, are going to be of your choosing, and you need to choose them very carefully because they're going to dictate the quality of your life. The people around you have a strong influence on you, so be careful. And the second one is that whoever you actually choose to associate with, you have to love them, and you have to love them sincerely. You cannot be fake positive with these people. It's a tendency that a lot of individuals in the modern age have developed, and in reality, at the end of the day, it produces negativity. Both negativity and fake positivity are nefarious. The only true things are real negativity and real positivity. And if you cannot be really positive with someone, chances are you should just cut them loose, let it go. Because if you have to force it, in the long term, it is going to become poisonous. So also be careful with that. Whenever we imagine that anything which lies not in our power is good or evil for us, if the evil befalls us or if we miss the good, we inevitably blame the gods and hate the men who are or whom we suspect to be the cause of our disaster or our loss. Our solicitude about such things leads to much injustice. But if we judge only the things that are in our power to be good or evil, there is no reason left for accusing the gods or for hating men. So it connects again because you are going to find that in your life you're going to blame others for your own unhappiness. And that by itself is a coping mechanism that is dangerous because you're constantly pushing the responsibility of your own well-being on others. And when it fails, you always use them as scapegoat. That is a very negative relationship to have. You need to cut these people loose. Not just because it's going to stop you from being negative, but also because it's going to completely remove the possibility in your life to use them as an excuse. Once you cannot rely on excuses anymore, the only thing left is to progress. It's to advance further because every single failure becomes your own and you therefore have to learn from them or else you'll just stagnate. Too many people don't realize that, but we crave progression and advancement and evolution truly in life. And the problem is that when you blame your failure on someone else, you're technically rejecting the lack of evolution onto someone else, which allows you to live with it. If you were not able to do that, you couldn't really deal with it. It's not really possible to just tell yourself, okay, I'm a failure, I failed, I didn't move forward, and that's my life. No, you're not coded to be like this. You're going to try and get better. So that is something to do, get better. Remove those people from your life for their own sake and for your own. But the start is especially interesting because it says here that if you imagine, so that's already work on your part. It's already something that you have put some mind energy in it. If you imagine anything which lies not in your power to be good or evil, then each iteration of evil or good is going to eventually produce something negative because, as he says, first off, you have accepted the fact that something outside of your control can hurt you and that you are completely incapable of taking responsibility or claiming it back. And it is true that in this life, there are things that are going to slap you in the face. It's something that I heard today that resonated with me. The universe is going to kick you for absolutely no reason. And that is inevitable. All right? Marcus Aurelius is not telling you that you can avoid that. What he's telling you, however, is that you can control the reaction when that happens. And when you control the reaction, you control the outcome, and in reality, you control the event. Because if I chuck a rock at you and it bounces right off, did I really chuck a rock at you? It didn't do anything, there was no consequence. Therefore, it didn't really happen. It's not going to be as easy to replicate in real life. If you get struck by a car, of course, I mean, you're not going to just be invincible, but the way you act afterwards can be your demise or your victory. You could just be stuck in a wheelchair, refuse to go to rehab, and just stay in the wheelchair miserable. Or you could find out that you can actually use your legs. It's going to be very, very painful, but you're going to go through it and you're going to regain the ability to walk. Those two things came from an event that you didn't control with an outcome that was bad, but that you could have turned it into a good, or at least a lesser evil. And that was up to you. So as he says, once you have accepted, once you have let that poison enter your mind, if you miss something that is good, you're going to be mad at something that you're going to blame. And if something bad happens to you, you're also going to be mad. And you're never going to go forward. You're going to blame the gods or men, which in reality ends up being the same thing. When you hate gods or God for the things that happen in your life that you find unfair, you're really hating yourself because you are God. You are the God of your destiny. And if you hate other men, well, you're hating your brother. So you're really also hating yourself. And that also participates in that endless cycle of misery that Marcus Aurelius is trying to help you get out of. We are all cooperating in one great work, some with knowledge and understanding, others ignorantly and without design. It is in this sense, I think, that Heraclitus says that men are working even while they sleep, working together in all that is being done in the universe. Each works in a different way, and even those contribute abundantly who murmur and try to oppose and to frustrate the course of nature. The world has need even of such as these. It remains then for you to make sure which is the class in which you rank yourself. So, here, I like the idea of an endless struggle for advancement pushed forward by the human race. And it is true in reality that even when you sleep, you're participating, because if you consider your fellow brother or sister to be a part of you, if they are being productive, you're being productive. And even beyond that, if you're just your own person, you're sleeping, but you're recovering from work, and that sleep is going to allow you to then get back to work, so you are actually being productive. It's the same thing for bodybuilding and recovery. You need to pay attention to your rest day or the periods of time where you're resting, because this is when you build muscle, first off, and two, they end up being the opposite side of the training. They are just as important. If one or the other is not complete, the other is also not going to be complete. Beyond that, there is also the idea that we are all working together, but we're not working in the same way. And Marcus Aurelius says that that is fine. Stoicism doesn't try to replicate characteristics or personalities amongst people. It's something that I see a lot with Stoics. Well, they try to act stoic. But the objective stoic and stoicism is not the same thing. Being stoic and being a stoic are completely different things. I personally am someone by nature who is stoic, meaning that I don't show my emotions much. I am reserved, I'm fairly cold. That's the idea of the stoic person. Okay, I'm immovable. This does not mean that I'm more suited for stoicism. Someone who's more extravagant, who has more of an outward energy, is just as suited, because stoicism is a way of life. Anyone can apply it, regardless of your actual characteristics and your personality. So that's important. Stoicism is not a game. It's not an Halloween costume. You don't just have to act stoic to be a stoic. You have to actually study the philosophy and apply it in your life. And we all contribute, regardless of our characteristics. But some are going to try and oppose that work, and these people are always going to exist. They could oppose it just because they don't really understand what's going on, because as he says, some people don't get that, some people are ignorant of that, and some are cognizant of it, but they work against it for personal gain. These people are not only necessary, they will never stop existing. But it is the work of the Stoic to A, not do that, because as he says, it is your choice to decide where you rank. And two, in my opinion, and he doesn't say that, that's me, also try to oppose them, point them out, and show them as being a bad example. Because if within a society too big of a percentage becomes like this, they become counterproductive, the society collapses. So that's something that needs to be watched. All that happens to the individual is of profit to the whole. This would suffice. But if you consider closely, you will see that it is also a general truth that all that happens to one man is of profit to the rest of mankind. Profit here should be taken in a somewhat general sense as referring to things indifferent. So that's fairly vague, okay? That's not his best work because it could be reinterpreted in many ways. But what I see here is rather the presentation of one and the whole, which is a theme that is repeated throughout the books we're going to study. And if one profits, the whole profits, and vice versa. So there is a connection here. And then we could have a discussion about economics and thinking about which one of these portions need to be prioritized to benefit the entirety. Do we give more to one person, hoping that they would spread it throughout the group? Or do we give indiscriminately to the group, hoping that by that fashion we are evenly distributing the wealth? That's an interesting question, but not one that I'm going to answer right now. When you could cheer your heart, consider the several excellencies of those that live around you. Consider the activity of one, the modesty of another, the generosity of a third, and the other virtues of the rest. Nothing rejoices the heart so much as instances, the more the better, of goodness manifested in the characters of those around us. Let us therefore have such instances ever present for reflection. It is something that I found in my life, where some of my fondest memories were not necessarily me being nice to someone, but rather witnessing someone being nice to someone else. A memory that I have in that fashion is, it was I think 4 years ago, I was in Paris, and there was a homeless man that was just sitting on the ground. And it was winter, it was a rough time. And a little girl came by and she sort of waved at him, and he looked up and he smiled. Like a great big smile for the little girl, and she was happy, she waved and she left. And it really put it into perspective to me because I was there with my nice coat, I was fed, I was perfectly comfortable. And I was telling myself, man, if I was in his shoes, with most likely no food, barely any clothes, sitting on the ground, homeless for God knows how many nights, would I have had the warmth in me to give a smile to that girl? And the answer was no. And I still go back to that memory when I try to become a better person because I got a lesson from that man on that day. And I think that's important. And I think Marcus Aurelius captures that perfectly because if you constantly think about the evil and the bad of men, you're going to turn out like this because you're festering negative energy in you. Try and always scroll back to the good because there is so much good in us. And even if you argue that the good doesn't outweigh the bad, it doesn't matter. The good is light and the bad is darkness. A tiny bit of light and darkness is enough to see. That's all you need. And by that, you can become yourself someone who emulates that. Because you think about it, if you do it, if you are kind to others for no other reasons than to be kind, to make them feel good, you're going to become what I just described to you in their head. You're going to become that homeless man that taught me that within the most difficult of situations, kindness can always be found. And that creates a domino effect. Each person you touch is going to call back onto that, one day do something good for someone else, and that's exponential. That is how we turn it around. That's how we spread positivity. People say, spreading positivity, how do you do it? Well, that's exactly how you do it. You spread positivity. And on that note, I am going to leave you today. This is a short episode, but next time I'll make sure to stay for at least 30 minutes. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.